Shalom Chaverim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Guys, I do apologize. I did that where you can create the event showing that you're going to go live, and then I couldn't figure out how to make it start from that format. I'm used to using my computer here where it just shows where I can click live, and then you enter the name in when you're ready to do it. And I don't even know how to share that one. I guess it just sends you guys notifications that we're going live. And so everybody is probably still stuck over there. I did try to let everybody know that just by sending a text there that we're going to change over to this side here. So I guess I want to give you guys just a few seconds here to come on board. Let you guys know we are live here, and it looks like the numbers are climbing very rapidly there, over 500 viewers right now live. We do need to get the live stream back up and going as well, so that we can cover this on 3 different formats: Roku, live stream, and here on YouTube. This weekend, I'll be releasing a video on Patreon, which will be available there. Again, I'm only choosing the Patreon for the purpose of trying to really, from what I've heard, you can speak more your mind without being just having your channel closed down. Whether or not that's true or not, we'll find out, because I'm going to be a lot more candid over there. I know that this is like a subscription-based thing. Don't worry about that. If you want to contribute 50 cents a month, it doesn't matter to me. The whole purpose is just finding another platform that where we can try to say things a little bit more openly. Not everything, but probably at least once or twice a week, I'd like to upload things that are a little bit more candid about what's going on. I want to start off as I've got a whole list of things on the screen here and behind me for you guys. And Shabbat Shalom to those of you that are watching tonight. By the way, it is the Sabbath already, and but we are trying to stay on top of what's going on. It does look like that we will not see a strike by the U.S. led forces in Syria tonight. I expect that if it's going to happen, it'll probably be Saturday night, maybe even Sunday. I say that because the U.S. has talked about chemical weapons inspectors going to collect their evidence on Saturday, speaking about tomorrow. So we'll have to see whether or not they come up with their own evidence. It seems like both are claiming evidence on both sides. Let me just kind of run that down real quick. I know the U.S. also is saying that they have evidence on their side as well. The Nikki Haley is saying that. The Jerusalem Post just came out with this article here. U.S. has proved Syria carried out chemical weapons attack. And in the article it says, Washington, the United States has proof at a very high level of confidence that the Syrian government carried out the recent chemical weapons attack in Douma, but is still working to identify the mix of chemicals used, the State Department said on Friday. All right, you haven't got weapons inspectors there. How do you know what the mix is? Was that smuggled out with all the terrorists that the Syrian government allowed out? Interesting. We can say the Syrian government was behind the attack. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert said at a briefing, asked if the United States had proof of that. She said yes. Nauert said a team from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons would arrive in Syria on Saturday to collect the evidence. I'll be really curious to see how did they had to have smuggled it in somehow. I'm sure they did. And I say that, and I don't mean to be facetious, friends. I mean, Heather Nauert was the very girl that was saying, put a spotlight on Eastern Ghouta and wanted to spotlight the white helmets who have been involved with terrorist organizations from the very beginning of their founding. They're funded by British and U.S. backing. Their millions of dollars is put into their campaign. But we're going to get into some very troubling evidence tonight. I do want to warn you now, images could be disturbing. And I also want to really make something very, I think this needs to be said here. If the Syrian government is guilty of using chemical weapons against their own people, Assad does need to go. There's just no question about it. I just can't seem to find that evidence. And I'd just like to reiterate this because back in 2013, when the attack happened then, I was right there You look up the old broadcasts. I was like, Obama needs to do something to get this man out of power. But it's evidence. I used to be in law enforcement. I spent 6 years in law enforcement, 2 years in uniform, actually 7 years because I did 5 years undercover. I did a lot of investigations. I've done narcotics. I've done homicide, embezzlement, everything you can think of, I've been involved in. And as I look at the evidence that's being presented, that's the way I kind of think about things to begin with. I try to analyze it the way I was trained. And as I'm watching the situation that's happening, one thing that actually came to my mind today was, if I were investigating this as a law enforcement official today, and I was in that capacity, the circumstantial evidence, even now, is so overwhelming that not only would the White Helmets be indicted for the crimes against the Syrian people, but also whether you want to say collaboration, you would have those in the U.S. Government, those in the British government would also be charged with accessory to murder, no doubt. I mean, let's just be honest with us. I'll just shut up for a minute. I want to play a little bit of what RT has just put out moments ago today. Here it is, April 13th, 2018. Let's listen in on this here. Let me make sure we have our volumes up loud enough for you guys to hear. I know I can't do it too loud. If I do it too loud, it has a very bad echo on you guys' in there. Let's see if we're not too loud.
We have undeniable evidence that this was yet another staged attack that involved intelligence agencies.
This is Sergei Lavrov, Foreign Minister of Russia.
Spearhead a Russophobic campaign.
Well, now from correspondent Daniel Hawkins. We had a lot coming in the past hour. Daniel, what's the detail?
Well, one event, two very different versions of it, on essentially what's happened. Just to remind you, that incident on the 7th of April in Duma was claimed by groups on the ground in Syria, subsequently by France, the UK, US, to be a chemical.
I want to pause this just for a moment, just to say something, guys. I only saw this news broadcast 5 minutes ago. Everything else I had was ready to go for tonight. I saw this 5 minutes ago. This is going to be a shock to you. And can you guys actually hear when it's playing in the background? Just give me a thumbs up or yes, we hear it with no problem when it is playing. Because what they're going to show you in just a few moments here threw me completely off base. You want to talk about evidence. Well, they found, I should say, not so much, good deal, everybody got it. I appreciate that. The evidence that they have that's on this news broadcast is very condemning. If you're paying attention to the video footage that the White Helmets actually did here, you will see the very man that is a witness for the government that this chemical attack was staged, and the man is a medical student. Listen in on this very closely.
Attack by the Damascus government on civilians in the area, killing and injuring dozens, if not hundreds, of people. The Russian side has denied that. They've effectively said the whole incident was staged, that it did not take place. Now, in terms of evidence, of course, again, we've two very different versions of events. Today, we had a statement by the Russian side from the Russian MOD claiming that they have found one of the witnesses who's on camera in that video, which we can see there of the incident in Duma, used as part of the evidence for that alleged chemical incident, saying that this medical student, this medical doctor who was in that video, has denied that the people there, the victims, were suffering symptoms of chemical poisoning, rather suffering symptoms of smoke inhalation. Let's take a quick listen to what he had to say.
My name is Khalil Ajish. I am a medical student. I work in the ER department of Duma's Central Hospital. On April 8th, a building in the city was bombed. The upper floors were destroyed, and the bottom floors caught fire. All the injured from that building were brought to our hospital. The residents from the upper floors were suffering from smoke inhalation, and that is what we treated them for, based on the symptoms they exhibited. During treatment, some person came in, I don't know who that was, and said that it was a chemical attack. People got scared. A fight broke out. Relatives of the victims started pouring water on one another. Others began to give inhalers for asthma to children, even though these people were not medical professionals. We did not see any patients exhibiting symptoms of chemical poisoning.
That's the latest evidence from the Russian MOD, at least. It's important to remember, of course, evidence is the crux of the issue here, President.
Now, they're showing you, by the way, the very man that was in the video just now. This is him in the background there, when they're so you can see that he was actually there. Now, as he stated, he was at the hospital. People that were not even medical professionals come in there with a camera and then start freaking people out saying it's a chemical attack and start dousing everybody with water. All right, and I haven't listened to all of this. I want to play just a little bit more before we go into some other issues here. Let's listen in.
So they're stating they had solid of this chemical attack by Damascus. The Russian side claiming their specialists have visited the site, which Syrian forces are in control now alongside their Russian support, claiming they have found no evidence of this chemical incident. Now, the OPCW team has deployed. They are, I believe, in Syria now. They will be examining the site over the next 24, 48 hours, and they are the ones who will be able to provide more solid evidence as to what exactly happened there through analysis of soil samples, from air samples, looking at the victims who attended that hospital. They're the ones who will be able to prove what happened one way or the other, because right now we're getting two very different versions of what took place in Duma on the 7th of April.
Yeah, a lot resting on what the OPCW finds in the next 48 hours for now, though. Dan Hawkins, thanks very much for that. Well, those who reported on the alleged attack in Duma originally have some question marks hanging over their credibility, as Murad Gazdiev explains.
Reports of a chemical...
Murad Gazdiev happens to be a friend of ours. We do know Murad. And he has helped us out in times past here on Israeli News Live, because Murad spends a lot of time on the ground in Syria, as well as other places around Eastern Europe. He's been in Ukraine. Many places. Murad is definitely on the go all the time. He is an incredible journalist, and I do appreciate his work tremendously. So let's listen real quick to what he has to say on this.
Attack first appeared, strangely enough, at almost the precise moment the battle had ended, when the Syrian government and rebels were negotiating on how to evacuate the latter. Reports first appeared on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and spread like wildfire.
Well, my colleague Ken Delaney and I have learned today that the U.S. now has blood and urine samples from some of the victims of this attack in Syria last weekend, and that those samples, according to U.S. officials, tested positive for chemicals.
Sources, the usuals, white helmets who serve as rescuers for Islamists and Syrian rebels. Also, the somewhat less known Syrian American Medical Society, SAMS.
Let me back you up just for a moment. I did not.
Urine samples from some of the victims of this attack in Syria last weekend, and that those samples, according to U.S. officials, tested positive for chemicals.
Sources, the usuals, white helmets who serve as
Watch as the video comes up. Again, I've not listened to this part of the video there. You're going to see the white helmet guys. They're getting ready to execute this man, blow his brains out, and the white helmets come up and put a mat in behind him, getting ready to catch his body. You know, the white helmets are not Syria's civil defense. Syria has a civil defense, and they wear red uniforms to begin with. Look up Ava Bartlett or Vanessa Beeley on their articles about the true Syrian civil defense team there. But watch this so carefully.
Rescuers for Islamists and Syrian rebels. Also, the somewhat...
Oh, there they are, the white helmets. If you notice right there on that guy's sleeve, that's his little white helmet patch. Have the dark blue with that. Yeah, come over there, spread out your little thing. You got to pick up another dead body. You know, they had one of their guys that was involved in the beheading of a 14-year-old boy. You ever see the video? I mean, it's horrific.
less known Syrian American Medical Society, SAMS. Together with the white helmets, they were cited by the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, virtually every Western media outlet reporting on this chemical attack.
On Saturday, April 7th, amidst continuous bombardment of residential neighborhoods in the city of Douma, more than 500 cases, the majority of whom are women and children, were brought to local medical centers with symptoms indicative of exposure to a chemical agent.
SAMS itself is funded by US aid, $6 million in 2015. US aid is widely believed to be an arm of the State Department and is banned in multiple countries, accused of interfering in domestic policies and promoting regime change.
You see, I didn't know that. The aid came from the State Department? No wonder why Heather Norant was saying, put a spotlight on Eastern Ghouta. And she said, and don't forget to watch the documentary, The Last Man Standing in Aleppo. The pieces are coming together. I'm learning this with you guys. This is blowing me away. I had no idea the State Department was the one funding these guys.
It even has an Office of Transition Initiatives. The management at SAMS are also, believe it or not, former USAID staffers. SAMS, who reportedly provided the UPCW with samples of the alleged sarin gas that was used in Khan Sheikhoun, the site of a chemical attack last year, after which Donald Trump sent 50.
All right, Khan Sheikhoun, we already know. You guys seen the pictures, the white helmets with their bare hands with no gloves on. Sarin gas where one drop is lethal. And again, I still ask the question. They say that Assad is using the chemical weapons against the militants in order to kill off the militants so he can win the war. He's already he did so successful that they were surrendering by the bucket loads. Thousands of them have surrendered, and Assad was kind enough to bust them up there to some other part in northern Syria there to get them back over with either the Americans or the Turks, whichever side they wanted to go to. Now, here's what's weird though. If Assad was doing this to try to target the military personnel there, or even in the case of the white helmets, if he was going to target, what is it, Islam, I think is what they call their name there, why did none of them never die? How come you never see the jihadists being filmed as they're all choking to death on chemical weapons? Use some common sense. Is anybody going to use common sense tonight or what? I mean, think about it. I've never seen a white helmet yet that's been affected by the chemical weapons, other than one time, finally, somebody said, oh, while they were treating the people with the chemical weapons, one of the white helmets was overcome with the fumes and had to be taken to the hospital. I think that was the only case I've ever even heard of. And yet the military that they have, all the jihadists that Syria is fighting against, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I will stand corrected if I'm wrong about it. If there's something, please send me the article. All right, send it to me on Twitter. Twitter's probably the best way to send it. I pick up Twitter a lot easier, Let me know what you guys see, because I've never seen it. And yet this is always supposed to be because Assad needs to get rid of these jihadists. Why then does Assad only attack if he's the one guilty of this? Why does he only attack his own people that seem to love him? Something is really messed up. Let me just jump through this real quick.
If we find unequivocally that he has used chemical weapons against his own people, that is a clear breach of the Chemical Weapons Convention, and I think he deserves a slap. But at the moment, I personally have not seen definitive evidence. Probably I wouldn't see it, but I'm not at all sure that definitive evidence is there. So speaking as a military man, I find it extraordinary that Assad's military are stupid enough to use chemical weapons in an area that they're just about to take charge of anyway. That seems to me extraordinary. Whereas if I was advising the opponents of
Now, I'll leave the link for this in the description after we get this video uploaded onto YouTube. But you know, one thing too, again, what was really strange, if you notice how in both cases, with the case of Khan Shaykhun and also this year, 2018, in the case of near Damascus, you've seen President Trump about a week or so before the attacks. In 2017 with Khan Shaykhun, President Trump was saying that Assad doesn't have to go, we're going to work with him. In 2018, he's saying, I think we're going to pull our military out, with the people that are there, deal with the situation. Why is it that there's always some kind of new way of thinking with President Trump? It's really, it's an insult to your intelligence. Are people, does President Trump really think that the American people are this stupid? I mean, the first time, fool you once, okay, you know, the old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. Or is it the other way around? Anyway, you know the point I'm trying to make. Definitely check it out. I've got to go back and watch that myself. Let's move on. This is General Konashkinov. The Russian Defense Ministry has plenty of evidence that on April the 7th, a planned provocation was carried out in Duma to provoke a military response by the U.S. against Syria. And we have evidence of the UK's direct involvement in the organization of this provocation. Now, that's getting pretty serious. Now, we know that the direct evidence he's talking about because they captured British servicemen embedded with al-Nusra there in this particular location in Syria. He also goes on to say in this one here, we have evidence that UK had direct involvement in arranging the Duma provocation in eastern Ghouta. We know for certain that between the 3rd and 6th of April, the White Helmets were pressured from London to speed up provocation they were preparing. That is very interesting, isn't it? Now, Vanessa Beeley. Vanessa Beeley appeared yesterday on the UK Column News, and I want to play a portion of the interview with Vanessa Beeley there. Keep in mind, they were doing some kind of construction at the time, so it's very noisy on Vanessa's side, wherever she's at. It's kind of funny yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday, or something like that. We had pounding in the background here or there. We don't have a shower in our house here, so it's been very kind of difficult when you only have to use a tub. I haven't had to use a tub since I was a kid. So we were busy, a friend of ours helping us there try to install a shower, putting some tile on the wall. I'm sitting here doing news, and you get the pounding on the wall. Blah, 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 blah. Well, now it's Vanessa's turn to have the pounding on the wall, but she's in Syria, of course, and I'm sure everybody's pounding on the wall trying to rebuild the whole place here. But let's pick up where she's at here. They're about to interview her, and I want you to hear what Vanessa had to say. Let me get to the part where Vanessa's at. Because it's very, very interesting to see Vanessa's take, because Vanessa has been there. She has actually been to this location in eastern Ghouta there. She has seen for herself exactly what's been going on. And Vanessa brings back the story to us that the parents are saying their children were kidnapped by the White Helmets. Now, Vanessa caught another story of this and actually could hear it on the video footage where White Helmets were running away with a child, jumping into an ambulance with the mother coming out in Arabic crying out, "Where are you taking my child?" And the child screaming for her mother. So this is very serious for him. Listen in.
Show no trace of either sarin nor chlorine or any other chemical agent. Local hospitals have not received any patients with chemical poisoning symptoms. So Vanessa, bringing you in at this point, welcome to the program. Really, Britain and the United States in a bit of trouble here because no one believes them, and there's no evidence, it seems, although the BCW is on site, or at least they seem to be investigating.
I'm going to move it back just a little bit.
Very close to capital Batna, which is where basically the Eastern Ghouta chemical or alleged chemical weapon attack happened in August 2013. This is an area called Zamalka. We were taken into what was basically a munitions factory and a warehouse that was run by a number of terrorist organizations, but predominantly Nusra Front, Baikat Rahman, Jaish al-Islam. And in those centers, we saw the most extraordinary array of munitions, mines, even branded mines with Jaish al-Islam printed, engraved onto the mines themselves.
Let me go past
huge number of rockets and missiles.
I wanted to skip past real quick where she talks about all the weapons that they found from Jaish al-Islam. Jaish al-Islam, by the way, is the group I think that is that works with the white helmets, al-Nusra, etc. Let's pick up right after that, because now she's going to go into her. And Vanessa is very objective about this, because she'll tell you straight up she's doing her own independent investigation on these facts, but she's going to share with you eyewitness accounts, people that have suffered the kidnapping of their children by the white helmets, only to be used, according to their testimonies, as props in these horrific videos that they're making. Listen to this.
Torture going on. It's also about the recovery of people that are apparently buried in rubble. And we have, once again, another white helmets video here showing a child being recovered. But there are more and more allegations, Vanessa, of children being deliberately buried in the first place. Is this what we're understanding is going on?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll do is just talk through what I basically yesterday I ended up speaking to not only officials on the ground who were carrying out investigations into what was happening during the occupation, but also to civilians who lived under that occupation. And in this instance, it was the officials that gave me the statement that, in their view, based on the evidence given to them by the civilians living in that area, what was remarkable is when these children went missing from their families, it is believed that they were somehow drugged or anesthetized, and they were then used as props in the various false flag events that were staged by the white helmets, but not only by the white helmets, by a number of players, including the terrorist factions themselves. And so what he basically told me, that this is the official who was talking to me about what he has gathered from all of the information he's been given by the civilians there, is that the majority of civilians who lost children were unable to see those children before they were buried. And so this intimates that these children were taken somehow from these families under certain circumstances. His belief is that they would wait for the Syrian jets to be overhead, and then the people would run down to the basement. They would then cut the electricity, pour in similar in the areas that people would start screaming, and then they would start filming. And at that point, the children would be taken, they would be anesthetized, and they would be then used as props in whatever event they were filming. Now, I have to stress, this is coming from an official who was talking to me about the research work he had been doing. So I still need to corroborate this with my own investigation. But after this film that you're watching, where we see the white helmets basically going immediately to the spot where the child is buried, so there is no search for this child. They seem to know exactly where the child is buried, and as they remove the rubble from this child, the child miraculously starts crying. Now, in any normal rescue situation, if this child had been buried genuinely under rubble, I don't think we would be hearing it crying.
All right, let me kind of back up just for a moment here. I want to share some things with you. Now, I just happened to catch a comment on it. Somebody just tuned in and asked to kind of catch up on this. We're examining the evidence that is coming out of Syria. Right now we have Vanessa Beeley on. Vanessa, I believe Vanessa's from Britain, if I'm not mistaken. Vanessa's been extraordinary, kind enough to share things with us as well that is breaking in Syria. She was on the UK column News, and in this interview, she is exposing or expressing the information that she has been gathering from those from the people that she has been interviewing there on the ground. And in this particular story that she's talking about, there's one man that is actually says that the parents are claiming that the White Helmets have kidnapped their children, taken their children away, and only to find out later that there is some part of video propaganda after a bomb's being dropped and the children are being buried in the rubble. Now, Vanessa says that it's interesting because they're not having to really look for the child. They know where the child is buried. I'm going to give you one of these little investigator insights here from when I used to do this. I want you to see something particular that I saw in the video, and maybe you guys caught it as well. All right, they're going. Let's play it.
Where understanding is going on?
Yeah,
I'm going to take out the volume for a minute. I want you to notice something, all right? They go out the door. Supposedly, this mother is following them, saying that her child is buried in the rubble. Maybe that's what she said. Who knows? I have no idea what the woman is saying. But all right, there it is, right there. Let me get rid of this ad thing out of the way there. Notice here, there's a sheet that's hooked up on there, comes back here. It's a flag marking the location of where the child is. Now, somebody realized, I guess, while they're filming it, that, hey, if a bomb just dropped, you're not going to just have a sheet sitting there hanging up, tied off to two posts here so we can mark where the child is. They also have kind of like a mattress, which you could say, well, the child was laying on the bed and the bomb blew up and the child got buried in the rubble. Okay, sure. All right, watch what happens, though. He's going to jerk the sheet down, watching. The guy filming or somebody standing there. See, notice how that, I mean, it's really wild. There it is, right there. I can always try it again. Okay. That sheet is tied off here and here, right where you're supposed to dig for the child. Interesting. Now, and it's disturbing image to see it. Now, see, there you go. He jerked it off. They had it. Let me back it up again. Oh, sorry. He's going to jerk it off the window. Watch him. They jerk it off. Now they have. Now, here's the weird thing. They actually had to stop filming if you pay attention to what happened here. They literally, let me play it again. I got to figure out how to slow this down. I can probably put it in some software I have and slow this down. They actually cut the film and then restart it again. Watch what happens here. You're going to jerk it off. Now see, the window is started, it just kind of moves a little bit, then watch what happens. See, now the window's already closed completely, and they start filming, but the camera's in a different position now, and he's going to come back down. Not bad. I mean, what did these guys, didn't they win an Oscar in Hollywood for being actors? Pretty good job. The only thing is, they're not smart enough yet to know to put the camera in the right place to look good. And don't tell me the camera's jumping around. I know a cut and a restarting of the film. I see one. All right, now. So now they're digging right where the sheet was at. You know, now I don't know why that they don't have the camera closer to what they're doing, but they begin to dig. And that's another strange thing. How did all this rubble get up underneath that awning in there? That's kind of interesting. But then you have like this mattress thing. I guess another thing to kind of help protect where the child's laying at. Make it look good, who knows. But you know, the sad thing is that they're willing to bury a child alive. Bury a child alive. And when they're digging, you'll see the face of the child. Now, I've actually seen the video without the commentary, and the baby starts crying as soon as her mouth is uncovered. And there it is right there. You can see her mouth right here at the bottom of the screen. I mean, this is horrible, what they're doing to exploit these children like this. Also, Tulsi Gabbard, Congresswoman, but which, by the way, Tulsi is also a major. She's in the National Guard. She did serve overseas twice in Iraq. She brought up some pretty tough questions for General Mattis. And I know that Tulsi has some particular conservative, not conservative, but some liberal views that I definitely do not like. But nonetheless, she's got a very good stance when it comes to Syria there. I'd like you to listen to what she says here on C-SPAN.
So if if the decision is made, as you have stated publicly, you're laying all the options on the table for the president. If the decision is made to launch a military attack against Syria, Russia has already responded, saying that they would respond to our U.S. strike. As this action is considered, can you justify for the American people how going to war with Russia over Syria serves the interests of the American people?
No, Congresswoman, I can't answer that question. I'm not ready to speculate that would happen.
Would you not say that it is a highly likely occurrence given what Russia has stated directly, that they will respond?
No, Congresswoman, I would not. And there's a lot of ways to respond to the violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention, diplomatically, economically, militarily.
Sure.
That taken in total would represent, I think, what we have to do in this world if we're over in.
So the General Mattis, by the way, his comments, you might consider them vague, you may not, but I want to share with you, though, something that General Mattis has said and done. He is actually one general that is not wanting to get involved in this war. Mattis tries, according to the New York Times, to put brakes on possible Syria strike to keep this from escalating. And that's what's strange. We get this article on April the 12th. I'm not sure exactly when this was aired here. It's on April 13th, whether or not that's when it's posted. I don't know if that's when she was asking the question. But the New York Times is saying that we have here, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis sought on Thursday to slow down an imminent strike on Syria, reflecting mounting concerns at the Pentagon that a concerted bombing campaign could escalate into a wider conflict between Russia, Iran, and the West. Now, the Congresswoman specifically asked him, aren't you concerned about this? And he kind of downplays it, but now in the New York Times, he's concerned about it. I think I have to really say, I have to give James Mattis a little bit of credit here. He's on several occasions, he's been reported as to trying to slow this down and try to keep President Trump from going forward. I kind of wonder if he's not the next guy on the chopping block, if you ask me. We are trying to stop the murder of innocent people, Mr. Mattis said, but on a strategic level, it's how do we keep this from escalating out of control, if you get my drift on that. The only thing I asked Mr. Mattis is, why didn't you say this to the Congresswoman when she asked you that question there on C-SPAN? Oh my gosh, guys. Also here, oh, by the way, this one here. Yes, this article here is in the Arabic language there. This is an article or a tweet that came out that the Russian government, President Putin, has spoke directly with the Iranian military to use their military airfields inside of Iran for the refueling of their strategic bombers that Russia uses there. We're talking about some pretty heavy guns that Russia uses, and they have already flown in these bombers into Iran. So Russia is sitting at a distance, but also very much prepared in the event that this spirals out of control. And if Elijah was, the journalist Elijah, we shared with you a couple of days ago, if there's any truth in what he is saying, Russia will wait a couple of days to see if this is only going to be a kind of like a bomb and go type thing with the U.S., France, and the UK. But the question does still remain: will it spiral out of control? I have no idea. I often think of Nathan and what he said. You know, that there would be a limited nuclear war that would break out that would last for about 2 weeks. Actually, it'd be, I think, a ground war to start with, but then it would turn into a nuclear conflict between the U.S. and Russia. And then his near-death experience. And I realized he was saying this was during the time of Obama, but every time I had looked at what he had actually said in the Hebrew language, I really felt like he was giving his own opinion, too, about what he saw in his near-death experience when it comes to the time frames and things of that nature there. Obama still, though, is very much involved in the political circles and what's going on in the world. So don't rule this man out. I certainly don't. CIA chief confirms this is a very stunning article that came out on the Washington Times. CIA chief confirms U.S. strike killed hundreds of Russian mercenaries in Syria in February. If you remember, we actually broke the story on that before mainstream media did. He goes on here, Mike Pompeo confirms Thursday the U.S. forces killed a couple of hundred Russian mercenary troops in Syria in a strike earlier this year that he said sent a distinct signal to Moscow. Now, I think the official number was actually 14. They're not official from the Russian government, but one of the men that came back from there said it was actually 14 that were killed. Now, there were 200 people killed, but according to Syrian officials, those were loyal fighters for the Assad government that were not the mercenaries that were sent in by the Russian mercenary group. I forget which group that is that they have there in Russia. But nonetheless, Mike Pompeo is very direct in bringing that issue up. I guess that's a taunt. I don't know what you'd consider that. Anyway, that is actually it for this evening there. I don't know what else is going on, guys. Let's just real quick, since we're live here, let's see if we've got anything going on in Syria right now. Again, I don't expect there to be an attack tonight. I really myself would be thinking if they're going to do it, it's either going to be Saturday night or Sunday. Just have to wait and see. I think they want to get probably some staged evidence together that has been smuggled in there to the white helmets. They do seem to have their corridors where they're able to get in there. So we'll have to wait to see. Isn't that funny? We talk about Obama, and here we have it right here. Is the Obama administration to blame for the current crisis in Syria? Former Obama advisor Ilan Goldberg joins whatever it is on this week's Deconstruction to discuss this. Well, he's the one that got it all started, I guarantee you that. So, but anyway, I don't see anything else going on as of right now. Anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us here tonight, and shalom. And we will keep you up to date as we see things developing. By the way, too, we've been seeing a lot of military activity in the skies over here in Prague. Mainly training is all it is, but because they're not directly in any kind of training with NATO right now that I'm aware of. But a lot of planes are flying above head. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live. Erev Tov. It is late night here for us, so you guys have a great night. Shalom.